kind of position that whoa, here we go. Okay, so oh, Wesley comes right back at him with a bad response. It's like an inside chess joke for everyone watching. The point here, everyone, is that when the match began to run off the rails versus Anish Giri in the 2018 Speed Chess Championship, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov from Azerbaijan started trolling and playing really bad openings. And why is A3 a bad opening? Let's analyze it just to clarify, right? White is normally looking to fight for the center, using the first move advantage to get a tempo ahead of black and control the center. And my board doesn't want to cooperate. A3, yay! A3 is a move that doesn't do that. It doesn't fight for the center.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all. But guess what Wesley So does?
H6.
H6.
He
right
said,
back at
he
you.
said nobody's going to troll me.
Nobody's going to troll me. If you're going to play a bad opening, I will play a bad move. Both sides completely neglecting to fight for the center. And then Mamedyarov's like, all right, I'll play E4 next. Plays E4, E5, and now we're basically in a mainline opening with A3 and H6 having been thrown in. This is hilarious.
Yep. And so we get to this like live position. Like as you said, it looks very normal here. The pawn on A3, is it more or less useful than the pawn on H6? Well, the problem with the pawn on H6 is it makes F5 harder to play because that weakens a lot of the light squares. But at the same time, it takes away the G5 square from white's pieces, in particular, a knight. And so probably more useful to have the pawn on H6. And here I was just saying G4, bishop G6. He'll take on G6 and give you the bad double pawns, but also the very nice open file.
Yeah, and the reason why we whoa, and I went Phil Connie Reeves there. Whoa, I was whoaing on every move.
Did he just blunder a piece?
I think he did. He just
he
gives the grimace like, I think I just blundered a piece. That's like, I don't think that's the smell of his cat.
Although
making his face turn.
Kitty litter is
kitty litter. Like, Mom. Okay. The reason we woed on G4 is because that's a move you often then want back. You want to keep your king protected, but here bishop to G6 likely runs into a situation where maybe black's king and the light squares are just as weak as white's king. But instead, Wesley, instead of playing the needed move, plays F5 and forgets that it's not just going to be a trade of bishop for bishop. White takes the knight first, and it looks like Mamedyarov is just going to win material.
Yeah,
but
he transitioned to a position up a pawn. So instead of allowing his king to be under attack, he played this move D3.
Giving back the piece.
Exactly. And a very smart thing to keep in mind. We mentioned this yesterday. Something's in your up material. You give a little bit of it back to say, I'm still up something, and let me try to outplay my opponent from there. And right now, white is up a pawn. The king feels much safer than it would have in the other lines. And so there's maybe I need to play bishop D2. I'm one move away, or bishop E3, I guess,
to get developed. And but okay, Wesley's going to try to create pressure here.
He's being smart about it. He's saying your bishop's not developing.
Your bishop can't develop without B2 falling right now, and D4 maybe prepares B4. The idea before is that B4 wouldn't have been possible because the queen could have taken, and indeed that's the case. So D4 blocks the queen so he can get B4, and then maybe develop the bishop. But look at Wesley. Rook lift, hop on the elevator. Look at that.
Yep. And so I wonder now if Mamedyarov is just going to say, okay, he'll get one check in and that's it, and play bishop D2, continue the development. But smart idea. And also the H5 pawn is a real weakness.
Yeah, H5 is weak. The G5 square is calling my name. This is turned much more unclear than you thought it would after that sort of rather smelly move, F5 by Wesley So, if you just joined it. Not the cat's fault, according to Grandmaster Peter Svidler in the Twitch chat. If you're one of the 8,000 people just tuning in, thanks for being here. Hit that follow button where the biggest events in chess happen. Right here, twitch.tv/chess. And thanks for being here. Rook to G1. White wants to use the G file to hit the king, but who will get more of an attack?
I'm laughing because Peter said Queen H4 is the idea, Bobby, and then he goes, okay, Wesley disagrees.
All right, Rook G4 played again. White does want the G file, as we've been highlighting, but who will get a bigger attack on the king? That's going to decide this game. That's a nice move.
Yeah.
If the queen trades here, everyone, Wesley's going to take with the pawn and fix his structure. These double pawns here, for those who don't speak chess lingo, let's do some basics. The doubled pawns are weak as long as they stay that way. They can't protect each other, and if anybody attacks them, they usually fall. So this is a nice move. What he's saying is with the trade, I get to undouble my pawns, and that's exactly what happened in the game.
Yeah, now he went h4 to protect the pawn, and the rook on h5 looks like it's in a weird spot. Here he's going to play king g2.
Yep.
So just go ahead, take that h pawn. I'll swing my rook to h1. And that's the thing. White's queenside majority, right? You have 4 pawns against 3 for White's in White's favor on the queen side, and Black has 3 against 2 on the king side. But Black's pawns seem relatively stopped in their tracks, in particular because there is a rook on h5, right? Like your rook is just
kind of awkward there,
stuck there. And White doesn't have an easy time pushing forward on the queen side, but as the game continues, you can think about playing, rook c1, pawn c4. Not that that actually gets you a passed pawn, but it does open up some activity
a passed
there.
pawn, everyone, is a pawn that no longer has anybody in front of it so that it can become a queen. That's kind of the goal of every endgame. In fact, we will say the h pawn is a passed pawn for Black if things stay this way. So Wesley might play a move like rook g4 to try to corral that pawn, but then shock, but then look for rook e8 for Wesley to use the e-file while you're gobbling this pawn. Maybe I get an active rook over here.
Yeah, I guess the f4 pawn also needs some tending too.
Yep.
So h5 is an option for Black because the same issue that Black had with his own rook on h5 earlier. If you do play pawn to h5 here, and there he goes. Now after the rook takes on h4, I was thinking the rook could be a little bit misplaced there.
Yeah, so the question is, who will get the stronger pass pawn in the endgame? You highlighted earlier that White has the 4-on-3, but it looks like Black is going to be in good shape, right? White is definitely on the defensive over here to Black's pawn.
And note that White has a dark square bishop that is totally in tune by all these dark square pawns.
Yep.
Because on the queen side, it's your own pawns, and the f4 square, it's a black pawn, just limiting the scope of the bishop.
Time is gonna have a big part of the finish here, though. Both
wasn't
sides
h5
now under
hanging with
15
check?
seconds. Whoa, he just blundered h5 and nobody saw it?
They both just allowed rook takes h5.
Rook h1 was played, and after rook f6, the pawn was just hanging with check. Neither side did anything. And, okay, retreated next, but will this game end in a draw, sort of poetic justice for the mutual blunders in the endgame?
It's a good question.
They're about to truffle shuffle this way into some peaceful results here, looks like.
Hopefully there are no more truffle shuffles.
Yeah, hopefully no more of that. But, okay, if White gets the king to d3, then c4 is back on the agenda.
Right. But Black is saying, okay, if your king runs too far, I'm going to go h4, h3, and look at that.
The passed h-pawn is key for White. White has to keep it blockaded, or the pawn will run up the board. And there you have it right there. Definition of a passed pawn. Everything about this position is centered around this feature because White can't get too aggressive on any other side of the board or the h-pawn will run. And now look at shock. Rook g. Oh, I thought he was going to play king g5 and get the pawn going.
Well, shock is White, so you shocked me there.
Shocking you.
Rook e8. Wait, rook e8. Go for the a-pawn.
Rook e8, go for the a-pawn, and the h-pawn is slow. Neither side is comfortable here, clearly because of the time pressure. They're living off the increment 4 seconds to 2 seconds. Okay, here comes the passer.
But bishop e1. Nope, the bishop on e7 protects it, but so far very strange. Don't go bishop h4 yet.
Bishop h4.
There's rook h7. It's a pin. Oh, and now bishop
h4 works.
No, it doesn't, because then rook h7 still. Rook h6. The rook was protected there. He tricked him. So now if rook e7, he would be able to take on h4. So that was very well timed
by Mamedyarov. Yeah.
This game is ridiculously strange.
Ended in a draw, shockingly. But mutual blunders